To introduce me, I'm Dirk. I'm the creative director at Gem3. Gem3 is a production house in Toronto. So they flew me over from Canada last week so I could visit my mom, who's here as well, and she hates me saying this. But let's get started. So here's our reel. I thought we can actually load a sound here as well. I don't think a lot of people know Gem3. Gem3 is a production house, and similar to the Mill, we get shit done. So whenever there's anything impossible in digital media, we get it done.
Get your hands up, hands up. Get your damn hands up. Throw your hands in the sky. Get your hands up, hands up.
Now I ain't never tell you to put down your hands.
I'm on to the next one, on to the next, on to the next one, on to the next, on to the next one, on to the next. Hold up, rocket don't stop, I keep the rocket don't stop. I bang in them beats, you know I rock the hip hop, stop.
Actually, I think we can leave it there. So I know the title of my talk was about R&D and innovation. I kind of wanted to change that last minute, so don't kill me. The thing about having ideas in a digital company or working in production, it really is that big ideas aren't always good ideas by default. You can have so many ideas, and I get so many crazy briefs from different agencies. Like, the craziest brief I've ever had was, what if you're on Twitter, there's a bubble machine and there's a car, and if someone tweets to it, this bubble machine would like make this tweet into bubbles. Like, they're having ideas are good, and of course being creative you need to go out of your comfort zone, but you always need to kind of think of a way to start small and then move forward and make it bigger. So, like I said, everyone likes to talk about unicorns and rainbows, and everyone wants to be a millionaire and have the best ideas, but starting there, being noble and understanding what you're doing is always important. So, to move on, like, of course, your first idea is manageable, you'll get all the awards, you've been working in the industry for so long, and you think you're going to win everything. But at the same time, you're like, is this tangible? Can you actually do it? And from there, you start planning. So you start planning your evil plan. You start thinking of like changing your creative strategy. Your plan is all about conquering the world. And you start talking to the best clients you have within your reach. And then you come up with your big ideas. And then there's one thing I do know is most of the time people don't really have a clue. I know I'm like, everyone like being creative is inspiring, working on digital concepts is great, but most of the time when I get a brief, loads of people actually don't know what the hell they're talking about from a tech point of view. So that's why I think not every idea is a good idea just because it's big or scalable. At the end, sometimes you want to start at the small idea, like this cheesy, cliche platform, which is one of the biggest platforms in the world, and at the same time, they're selling themselves as a platform that really connects people. It changes the way we communicate. At the same time, when it started, those guys are students, and they just wanted to connect on campus. So they started changing it. They started adding like boosts. They started adding, I don't know, weird comments. This is some of my own personal groups. Sharing different kinds of content. It became an advertising platform. And all those little bits are R&D. R&D is a simple thing to grasp, but really, so Jeff Tehan, who I've worked with for a little while, developed these smileys. That took him a fucking year. Imagine that, making 5 of those smileys, a year worth of work. That's what you got hired for. They bought up his company. But that's a year of work. So what's happening now is, when I was at Facebook last, they said we're flying plane that is still under construction. It is, but it's small bits of R&D, whereas Google works on self-driving cars. And to talk back or go back a bit to computer learning, what's interesting, they're using actually GTA. GTA is one of the most obscene games there is, where you can find prostitutes, you can kill hundreds of people, but there's also a big network of self-driving cars already in there, right? But they go on constant loops. So if you see a car, they would always drive the same route. If you stand still there, it's always the same thing. But imagine having computer learning, and this route actually changes. Everything starts to react to each other. That's R&D that's clever, it's learning, because other people are playing, and it's something that evolves over time. And then, so why do we do R&D? This is Amanda. She's our talent manager, and she's the most aggressive woman I know. And she's amazing. She is, I think, she actually has a lot to say within this process, because the fact that we do R&D makes us more clever. It makes our people more clever. It's the talent that we're basically enriching and giving more power to make better things. So, again, kind of to reiterate, why do we do this? We want to learn. If you're not learning, you're not moving forward. Dit is heel erg Nederlands, denk ik ook. And if we fail, we fail to learn, and building cool, innovative shit not only gives us the arms and knowledge that we didn't have before, but it also gives us something awesome to show off with. So, a couple of our projects, or R&D projects. We work closely with Google Zoo, like MediaMonks as well. And we do R&D cycles. So this is Google Maps, or Google Street View, and this is just a test. So every now and then we do an R&D cycle, which is, because it's Google, they're going to say, do something awesome with Street View. So this is our answer. And the interesting thing about it is, because we do a lot of impossible stuff, is the way we deal with assets is, actually I got a mouse, is that everything seems to be 3D over here, but those are just flat planes. Because the way Google Street View works, those cameras, let's say, if they have cameras pointing towards every direction, it basically becomes a flat image. And that flat image looks like it's like you're there, right? So what we're doing is, and that's why we're learning, right? So if we're doing R&D, we look at, can we change the ground plane? Can we get in 3D elements? Sorry. Can we move around? And this is just like a test, like a 1-week cycle. And then from there, we started to explode fucking cities for Independence Day, which was awesome. And basically all it is, again, we knew how it worked. We had the ground plane. We added in a spaceship. We added in a dogfight up in the air. We added in so many different elements to make it more cinematic, to actually, I can actually look at it. I know this is not the presentation, but I think this is giving you a better image of what it is like. This was actually kind of a nightmare project as well, because I think we can load the sound a little bit.
Independence Day.
Because just before this big event in Orlando where 50 people got shot, we wanted to launch this game, or actually this experience. And the annoying thing was, like, we were ready, and then all the language and sound and design had to change in like 3 days. But the core experience was still there. I think we can put on a little bit. And that's why you have this music. But the good thing about it, right? So we started with the jungle, and then out of that we had 5 different projects. And that's just a cycle that we do once every 2 months. We do a cycle of 3 weeks, and we get people to learn new stuff. Like on the next page is a project called Matchmove, which is using 3D technology, and it's just like, and I'm sure the mill knows all about this, is track points. So what we've done is dynamically you can actually place 3D objects that are relevant to the space it's in. So when you see a video and there's nothing moving, there's nothing to track. So I'm sure, are there any motion designers over here? It's very little. 1. Yeah. And the thing, what's interesting is because you can see him cycling, but then because we got the tracking points in there, we can actually figure out by clicking, figure out how big these elements are and how they're placed on the ground. And this is immensely complex for just a browser. I can actually show it later as well. Another R&D project, and these are just R&D cycles. We go to clients to be more proactive, right? So a lot of production agencies, someone like Ogilvy comes by, Saatchi, or like any of the big guys, or Google, they're like, this is our idea. Whereas what we want to do is we don't want to necessarily work on a big retainership, but what we want to do is we want to work more on innovative, cool shit. So that means that if this hasn't been done before, it has been done in a video, but it was fake. What we were thinking is, what if you can make an experience where there's a music video, or the mill does something awesome for the Chemical Brothers, and we can make that an experience that you can look at with different phones. See how content evolves. Now you got Snapchat, you got a lot more awesome content out there. Why not use that on bigger screens? Then, computer learning. This is not visually not the craziest thing, but this is, again, just to learn, right? So computer learning, the way it works, and I'm not too sure what I should say. The way I understand it is, if there is a certain behavior, like the cow, you see that cow from one side, that is stored, then you see him from another side, that is stored, and all this accumulated data all together is basically categorized as tags. When a photo happens, those tags are basically pulled out of a database, and you see that, and then you can see whether it's a cow or not. And what we've done here is, it started as a project called HashPipe for smoking weed, and then the thing here was, what if we just apply that to the elections? So how's Donald Trump going? Like, how is Hillary doing? And basically it's learning over time the behaviors of people on the web, and this seems like a very simple process, but because it's learning over time, and the longer it's learning, it becomes actually a more clever piece of software. So, how do you get your team to start working? So, get them to explore ideas outside of client constraints, because commercial work is great, but at the end, the technology should be first. And the technology could also be applied to a product, to a campaign, or anything else really digital related. Get the right people together. This could be get one expert, or get someone who needs to learn. Allocate time for them to do it. How many people here work on something personal, and we just heard about it. If there's a personal project, if there's a personal R&D project, the issue that I noticed is there's no rush, because there's no certain deadline. But because we allocate time to it, people actually start making awesome stuff. And then provide them with the right tools. So, what are you going to make?